Kelly, or Elliot, you ready? Okay. We're going to call our annual meeting of the CIC together. First item on the agenda is the election of board directors. I would like to make a motion. We have a new trustee here. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Tracy Schwegman to the board of directors of the CIC.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Porter.
How does this work? Do I call just the trustees, or do I call
Everybody.
All
the members.
All the members. That includes Mr. Kellums, then?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
But you call your own name and
Okay. Thank you. Mr. James,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
I'll vote aye also.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have to, appoint Tracy Kellums I'll make a motion to appoint Tracy Kellums as our executive director.
I will second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
I guess I do have a question for Larry. Would it be appropriate to appoint the current administrator, whoever that might be, to the board, which eliminates the problem of having to rename people when there's a change in position?
Well, he's the interim administrator. I think it would make sense to move to appoint Tracy Kellum to the board first before you do it as executive session, but you may want to add that he's the interim administrator.
Okay. So,
That's not exactly what I meant, though.
I know it is.
Oh, okay.
That was what my opinion was.
All right. Well, thank you.
okay.
We lawyers talk funny.
Okay.
You meant official capacity, and I wasn't sure I was going to agree with that.
Okay. So let me rephrase that. I would like to make a motion to appoint our interim administrator, Tracy Kellums, as our executive director.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. James,
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye. And you?
No. And I would also.
And you will vote aye. Great. Okay, next item is election of officers. We currently need a motion for president. Do we have a motion?
Sure, I'll move that Mr. Tom Weedman be named president of the CIC Board of Directors.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. James,
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye.
Okay.
And now Tracy can vote too.
And Mr. Kellums.
Oh,
Aye.
he can vote also, yeah.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is VP. I'd like to make a motion to. I will nominate Tracy Schwegman as our VP of the CIC.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. Kellums,
Aye.
Mr. James,
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
And I'll also vote aye.
Okay. Next item is secretary. I'd like to appoint or nominate Mr. James for secretary.
I'll second that.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. Kellums,
Aye.
Mr. James,
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And final item is treasurer. I would like to nominate Mr. Porter to be our treasurer.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. Kellums,
Aye.
Mr. James,
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
And all those vote
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the election of executive director. So we are re-electing Tracy Kellums, correct? I'll make a motion to nominate Tracy Kellums, our interim administrator, to the position of executive director.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. James,
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. And Mr. Kellums.
Aye.
Okay. Next item is approval of minutes from our December 7, 2021 CIC meeting. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the minutes of the December 7th, 2021 CIC board meeting.
Do we have a second? Mr. Porter? You second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. Kellums?
I don't believe I can vote on that.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Aye. And Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of the December 9th, 2021 special CIC meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of the December 9th, 2021 minutes of of the special meeting of the CIC Board of Directors with one amendment, which is to correct the typo in the title where meeting is misspelled.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Economic Development Grant Program. Mr. Kellums.
So we had revenue in the CIC last year of $100,000, as you can see from what I passed out to you in 2021. We gave out $91,463.49, which leaves a small balance of about $8,540 or so. So we have already moved another $100,000 from the township funds into the grant program. And so far this year, we have already given out $27,784.38.
Okay,
That's in all four of them.
so what does that leave our balance? That we had 109 minus 27, roughly?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I would assume we'll see the pace of requests pick up come March as folks near the end of the quarter. Would be my guess.
Or people doing their taxes by
Yeah.
April 15th?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, the the day of our next meeting is going to be June 7th, 2022 at 6:45. If there is no other business, we will take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.
Did I miss anything exciting in the JED meeting?
Nope.
Sorry I couldn't be here.
Okay, we're going to call our 7 o'clock meeting to order. If everyone would please rise for our invocation, read by myself, Mr. Collins.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many and abundant blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We thank you for the freedom that we enjoy to be able to openly worship you. Father, we pray for the wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests of our times and the ability to work together for the citizens of Sycamore Township. We pray for the true sense of the welfare and needs of all our citizens. Father, we pray for the agenda before us tonight, and we ask that you give us the assurance of what would please you. We ask for your blessings over everyone that lives, works, and plays in Sycamore Township. It's in your blessed name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everybody, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If Mr. Porter would note that all 3 trustees are present. We have approval of minutes from the February 15 meeting. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the meetings from the February 15th, 2022 trustee meeting. So I don't need to go.
A second?
I'll second, sorry.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Any corrections? Hearing none. Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye. Okay, next item on the agenda is we have 2 presentations tonight. The first one is Dan Dieters on our gas aggregation renewal. I know he was here last month and coming back as a follow-up. So Dan, we appreciate you doing that.
Thank you. I just spoke to Ms. Before I go into the gas real quick, I just spoke to Ms. Hoschel. Is it Hoschel? I'm sorry, Kugler.
Close.
Yeah, real close. Not very close. So she has handed me a list of what she's about to tell you about what's going on with her card. I will tell you that I'm going to investigate this tomorrow myself, every bit of what she's put on here. And if she stops by the office, I will give her a check for her amount.
Okay.
Now, I know that we're not responsible to do that. It's supposed to be Dynegy. I'll get it from them.
Appreciate that.
So I will absolutely make sure that this is rectified with them as far as that goes. So we've had a lot of, since I was here last, I'm finding that the company that they use, this North Lane company, I'd give them about a C+ on how they've done, and I've encouraged Dynegy not to use them again if anything like this ever happens. We've never had anything like this happen before. Since 2005 we've been doing this. I've never seen anything like this, and I will make sure that it gets rectified. I've given her my number. She can stop by the office tomorrow, and I will make sure that she is made whole. So, to the gas program. Everybody has seen how the performance has gone the last 6 months with the gas program. It's been phenomenal. A lot of residents have saved a ton of money. The Duke rate, I say rate, it's the GCR, it's what they've recovered. In November was 82 cents, in December was 72 cents, January, February were 62, March is 72 coming up. There's a little change, though, that's just approximate. Sycamore Township rate's been 39.6 cents. People saved in the last 6 months hundreds of dollars. We have gone through a pretty crazy period with gas because of COVID. Basically every industry shut down and didn't use very much gas. The price dropped through the floor. Folks still got a pretty good deal. It was a little bit above where the market was, but it's recovered, and everybody that was on the program over the 3 years has saved money to this point. And they're going to save through March, April, and May, it looks like, as of now. What I'm asking you tonight is give your administrator, Mr. Kellums, the authorization for us to move forward with the next contract. The prices in the market are vastly different than we were 3 years ago. The world is vastly different than it was 3 weeks ago. Energy prices are not great. We had not gotten prices that this good for this program in 6 or 8 months. So the vendor that we're going to ask you to choose once we get through the final negotiation with them is going to hopefully come in at between 53 and 54 cents. That is pretty. It's higher than the last program, but market projections will tell you that that's going to end up being, we think, a fair price to the residents of Sycamore Township. I've included in there some future pricing in the packet and a couple of things that, we're at pretty low storage levels right now, which is going to drive the price up for the next however long it takes. I don't know when fracking is going to get started again, if it ever does. But we feel at Energy Alliances that this is something that we need to execute. Not asking you to execute contract tonight, asking you to authorize the administrator to do, to be able to allow them to buy and execute a contract. It's going to be next week. So there's going to be more discussion with the vendor. There's going to be more negotiation, and then we're going to get to a number we want. No supplier will hold this price for as volatile as it is right now. It's just not going to happen. So any vendor that says, okay, we're going to buy X amount of gas for Sycamore Township, they're not going to say the price is 53.5 cents and then say, oh, sign the contract when you want, because in 2 weeks it could be 65 cents.
Right.
So it would be quite a bit of money. So that is what I'm here asking you to do tonight. The very last page, we give ourselves a little bit of cushion on that with regard to the pricing. I have one. You want? We give ourselves. It's about 7% cushion, and I'm asking for 57 cents at this point, and we expect it to be lower. We don't think the market's going to move that quickly to get it much higher. So, and it's been off the last 2 days. Went up a little bit this morning.
Dan, when we lock in, how long are we locking in for?
Well, we're only going to do 2 years. The reason is if the market would move, it's going to move in the far future, and we could actually come back to you and take a much lower rate if that would occur and blend it into this rate and lower the price further.
Okay.
So we usually did 3 years. This time we did 2 years in abundance of caution. We can always tack on a third year at any time if we want to do that. The trustees so choose.
Tacking on the same rate or at a newly negotiated?
Or lower. Or lower. I mean, so this rate came in as a descending rate. It was 63 and 48, and so we asked them to mix it to blend it for 2 years.
If we wanted to tack on a third, though, when rates generally had risen, are we looking at a higher rate for the third year?
Well, we wouldn't do it until because we might be able to pick up the second year after the one we didn't tack on. So it's a market game, and it's how the commodity is and how the futures are. If the futures are good, we'll lower it. Otherwise, we'll just kind of stand pat.
No, you're right. I mean, this is consistent with what we're seeing. In the
It's
private
even-
sector. It's hard, they won't hold. You can't get anybody to hold a price for.
No.
You might get 24 hours. You might get 48, maybe if you're lucky.
When we get the final negotiated price, we'll probably be asking Mr. Kellums to sign it that afternoon.
That would not shock. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, it's been really volatile, and it's like you said, your chart is accurate. It's what we've seen across the board. So. I appreciate being on top of it.
I will say, if I came to you back in September, I'd still be asking for this kind of urgency because no one's holding the prices.
Yep, got it.
Right.
All right, so what do we need?
I think, do we just need to make a motion or resolution? Just a motion?
The contract with who? Energy Alliance?
The contract will be with the new supplier.
Okay, so we need a motion to authorize the interim administrator to execute a contract with the new supplier.
With the chosen supplier.
Okay.
I move what he said.
We have a motion. We have
I'll
a
second that.
Motion
What do
is
you say?
second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. James,
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Hi.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you
Safe
tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dan. Drive
Thanks,
safely across
Dan.
town.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, we have Tony Lang of Street Food XPO.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Guess I owe everybody here an apology for the last meeting last month. As we know, there was a Bengals game that weekend, and I gave my employees that Monday off and went to work on Tuesday thinking it was Monday. So got a call on Wednesday from your parks guy, and he said, "Hey, you missed the meeting last night." I was like, "I got it tonight. I'm coming tonight." He goes, "No, it was last night." So I owe you all an apology. So I don't know how much Jason's filled you in on the Street Food Expo that he's approached us to do at Bechtold Park. But I'm here to answer any questions and kind of go over the thing with you. And I think maybe at this point each month I'd like to come back and give you guys updates of where things are at. I guess you used to do the big concert series at Bechtold, and there was a bunch of pop-up tent vendors there that sold food, and he kind of reached out to me last October and said, "I'd like you guys to look at potentially doing a food truck rally like Blue Ash and Westchester and, you know, other townships." And so I took a look at the park and I said, "You've got all the room." I said, "My biggest concern is parking, because, you know, if we put this together the right way, you're talking, you know, thousands of people coming." And I said, "I don't see that parking there. But I think we can get shuttle service set up for it to shuttle people in. If anybody here knows the Naked Karate Girls, they themselves will bring in probably 2,000 or 3,000 people. Since we built the website and created the event, we've already signed 32 food trucks. Our limit, from my standpoint, logistically, is 40. So we still have another month before the expiration date for them to register. And so, mapped out, we went out and walked it with a walk meter to make sure that we had, you know, could fit 40, and we can get them all in there without any problems. They can still, if they're a trailer connected to a mobile unit, they can still stay connected to their actual tow vehicle without having to disconnect. So that there will save us parking. I think there's probably 14 of them that have tow vehicles.
Are they going to be on the path? I believe that was right.
Yes, so I'm going to have everybody come in from the large entrance on the far side of the park, and then we'll circle them around based on where their spot's going to be. And then we have contracted out with the Naked Karate Girls to provide the sound for the full day, and music will start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We've already committed and lined up and signed all the entertainment for the day. They're all local bands, so we don't have that big price tag like the REO Speedwagons do. So I think, you know, logistically, working with the police department is going to be critical in making sure that we've got good traffic flow around that whole entrance point. And we're going to have to figure out how we're going to shuttle and where we're going to shuttle from. The other thing is that we have probably an estimation of about $30,000 in costs. And so right now, we're just now got the sponsorship packages put together, because now we have all the media lined up of what we're going to do to advertise it. And we've got City Beat, we've got Warm 98, a couple other radio stations and bloggers and websites to help market and promote it. So, you know, if this turns out anything like some of the other festivals that I've done in the past, we're going to have thousands of people at the park on this particular day. Good weather, and, you know, we're going to need some help. So I'm just coming to you this early to let you know and put it on the, you know, on your radar. Sergeant Chris?
Sovereign. What day is it slotted for?
This is Saturday, June 25th.
Okay.
And we
Any
have,
idea of how many sheriffs you think you need there?
I think that's probably got to be a conversation for him and I to sit down and look at the logistics of everything, and then he can determine what we would probably, you know, would suffice.
I would just like for us to do that soon. I know how hard it is for them to get
We're gonna need at least two for each,
overtime
we're
and
gonna need
get,
two for traffic control at each entrance, and depending on how many hours it goes.
Right.
You might wanna break that into shifts.
Yeah.
And we definitely want to have a presence, throughout the event. So even if they're off duty or, uniformed, obviously would be better, but we want to make sure that everybody that visits, sees that there's a presence there, so it limits any potential.
Do we need to bring a stage in for the bands?
Yes.
Yes, and I think Jason's taking care of that, so he's submitted that diagram to me, and based on that, we have been able to design, the banners and everything that are going to go on the stage for sponsors.
Good.
And again, if anybody knows of any businesses that would apply, because in the past, if you look at the sponsors that are on the site now, up at the top, what's happened in the past is there's been a food truck rally, and that was it. It was just food trucks. Or if you do what Springfield does, there's a gourmet food truck competition, and they've been doing it for 13 years now. And there's $20,000 that's put up as prize money, which is why so many trucks go to that particular event. And then we have all the people, because we fabricate food trucks and concession trailers. And as we've been working with different vendors over the past several years, we realized that there's no industry expo of the people that service that industry. So, if you shop as a food trucker, you're usually going down to one of the wholesale outlets to purchase food. Well, we happen to send people to like Averblay downtown, or we send them to 80 Acres, or we send them to Jungle Gyms. We try and send them to local as opposed to the big box retailers. And so we started reaching out to these folks and asking them, hey, would you be interested in coming out and putting the whole industry together on display? And it was an overwhelming yes. So we're going to not only have the food truck vendors, the music, the craft beer, which is local, but then we'll have local businesses in the park with their booths set up that service the food truck industry. And so I think it's an all-in-one package deal for anybody that's looking to get into the street food business. They can come out here and just, explore everything. So that's kind of what makes this, I think, different, and why it's going to be so big, because it's got all those elements combined into one event.
This is going to be a very exciting event. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a lot cheaper than the big concerts, based on what Jason's told me.
I'm with you there.
So those are all the trucks there. All those logos are all trucks that have already signed up and committed. And I think we have 8 more openings. Once we get to 40, that's the max.
I think we have a few operators in the township. I know one in particular that I don't see on the list, so I wonder if they'd be interested.
Who would that be?
Catch a Fire Pizza. I don't know if they're still operating their truck or not, but
Yeah, he doesn't have his truck anymore.
oh, he doesn't. Okay.
No, he's got the mobile pizza unit, but he doesn't take it out for less than $3,000, I think.
Okay, he lives in Heitmeyer, which is in the township. So
Yeah.
there's another one that visits Heitmeyer regularly too that might be owned in there. I'll look into that.
What about Chili Hut? If you know Chili Hut?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are they signed up?
No, they have not signed up. So it's an open invitation. I mean, for example, Wicked Lobster is a truck out of Columbus. I don't know if you like lobster rolls, but they're some of the best in the state. And those guys are coming down all the way from Columbus to spend a day with us. And they've got really good lobster rolls.
Do you have some craft breweries lined up yet? I saw.
So yes, we have March 1st, which I'm actually going there on March 1st tonight to go meet with those guys and let them know, everything. Because I've got the sponsorship numbers finally to give them. They have the most selection, let's put it that way, for a one-stop shop.
They are also
The
Sycamore
township.
Township
They're in the
business.
township.
Sycamore Township.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I approached Christopher right after Jason got a hold of me, and I said, look, if we take this on, I'm going to need some sponsor dollars. Are you guys in? And he said, absolutely. I said, okay. I'll let you know when we get to that point. So.
Very good.
Well, I certainly appreciate your willingness to continue to come back and kind of update us on how the
great.
event's
Yeah.
pulling together. There's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to pulling these things off, and so we appreciate your willingness to.
Is there anything
come and
for
share.
kids?
Yes, so we contacted Citygate Church because last year we went to their food truck rally and they had this ginormous air jungle gym all time. I mean, they had so many things out there for kids, and I'm like, you know, what company is this? And I got their card, I got all their information, and so we're gonna have them come up and set up this whole, you know, play zone for kids. So there'll be plenty of activities. We've contacted strolling magicians, we've got some face painters, we've got all your traditional stuff for kids to do, you know, while their parents are getting food. And we've actually gonna take the food friendly for kids and put them into the play area so that the trucks are by.
Cotton candy food truck? Is
Yeah.
that what I saw? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but he just added something that I'm not so sure about. We'll have to find out about that. He's doing cannabis cotton candy.
Oh.
Cannabis cotton candy.
Well,
He just announced that yesterday.
Just
I'm
keep
like,
eating more or what?
illegal?
Is that just flavored or infused?
You just keep eating cotton
I
candy all
guess
day.
he
I
makes it
need
with
some
some
more.
kind of CBD oil or something. I don't know.
Wow.
He said it's 100% legal. I'm like, yeah, but you
Yeah,
know,
right.
Okay.
but-
So not in the kids section. Okay.
probably not.
Yeah.
I'll probably put him by the stage.
So our part of it that you're looking for our sponsorship is what?
Well, I mean, we talked about this, Jason and I said, you know, logistically, I'm going to need the support, obviously, from police, fire, and, you know, EMS. And so that's kind of going to be, you know, the bill that you guys are going to have to absorb. And I think, you know, if I can get with you separate, we can discuss all the logistics, and then you give me your recommendation of what you're going to, and then we'll have to come back with them next month and say, here's his recommendation based on what we see happening.
Probably some maintenance
Maintenance
also,
guys.
work the
Yeah, the
grounds, or do you have people there?
Yeah, the parks, Jason said they would take care of, you know, the trash removal throughout the day, other things as far as, you know, the stage logistics and setting that up and all that kind of stuff, so,
Lights and stuff like that.
yeah. So we plan to run power. We've given the trucks the option. We are going to probably end up renting 2 of these, what are called 10 gigawatt generators from Arts Rental. And those things can run, you know, power to an entire event. And then they've got the light carousels that they bring out to light everything up at night. Given the time of the year that this is going to be, it's probably not going to get dark until about 9:15, based on the Farmer's Almanac. So I've done a little research on that to see how long we have to light everything. We're going to end at 10 o'clock promptly.
June 20th.
And then at that point, you know, it's going to be a probably 4-hour tear down process. It's getting all the trucks out is going to be, you know, the fun part.
Yeah, I think I think to your point, you know, you're going to draw thousands of people, and so, you know, kind of identifying that shuttle plan, that auxiliary parking area, and getting people there will be.
And we have a relationship with several parking lots around it we've used over the years for our festivals also.
Okay. That's information that I need, you know, so that when we go to announce shuttle services, we know how to direct people. Right now, it's just been in the stage of just getting everything, you know, the foundation in place. We just made it public February 1st. So it's relatively new, and as soon as it went public, there are all kinds of applicants coming in. And that's strange for a first-year event, because most of them want to know, you know, how many people were there last year, or how long have you been doing this? And us, since I'm the president of the association, we've got trust amongst the food truck community, and they know that if we're going to do something, you know, it's going to be done big, and it's going to go, it'll go off pretty good. So, but yeah, I mean, Sycamore is perfect location because you got thousands of houses around this park.
Yep.
People can walk to it. So now we just got to get the word out to the community. And I think we submitted the information on your Facebook page, and you guys are tagged as a co-sponsor. So
We've got a newsletter coming out within the next month or two, I think, so we can get it out in that too to push out to everybody.
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. So, anyways, that's it in a nutshell. And I will get with you, and I'll get your card, and we'll get together and,
Do you know if there's going to be any cooking in tents, or is it all confined to the
no,
trucks?
it's all on mobile units.
All in the trucks?
Yeah, we're not taking any pop-up vendors.
So
But
they
you-
will all have their own license.
Correct. So, in order to belong in the association, you have to have a current health department certificate. You have to have a $2 million aggregate of insurance, and then you also have to have your fire department inspection. And so all three of those certificates are going to be on file. So I'm assuming we will get with your local health department, whoever that's going to be.
We use the county.
So it'll be the county.
Yep.
And what we do is give them a big folder of everybody's certificates and say, here's everybody's stuff that they've submitted, so you can see it. Now you can go and check every truck, you know, and do a spot check and make sure they're compliant and legal. Same with the fire department. We got a blitz coming up from the city of Cincinnati. It's both the health and fire department at Longworth Hall on March 8th. So they did it last year at the Union Center Terminal, and probably 60 trucks came down and got inspected all on the same day.
Yeah, there's limitations to those for the trucks. I mean, they have to be inspected. There has to be inspection.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was a firefighter for 32 years.
He knows all about it then.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for the
Okay,
update.
any other questions from the board?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Anybody got any other questions?
Tony, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
guys.
you coming out.
Thank
Get
you.
your card. Thank you.
Okay, next item up on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any here tonight, Skylar?
Yes, sir. Next on the list is Ms. Tracy Hughes.
Hi, Tracy Hughes, 4705 Dunedin Avenue. I'm going to had prepared comments, but on my way here I thought, oh, what's the status of the turn signal on Orchard? There was a traffic study. Sitting in traffic tonight, I'm like, oh, I should ask. We discussed this several months ago. I don't know where that's gone. Anyway, that's food for thought. I'm here to comment on the February 1st trustee meeting. Quite frankly, when I couldn't make it to the 15th meeting, I thought, I'm going to let this go. But then I watched the fiscal officer's report and Mr. Vergelak's comments and decided I would like to make a statement for the record. First, for the record, elections have consequences, and the majority of the board has every right to the actions such as disbanding committees. No problem with that. I in no way condone disrespect of township officials, employees, and or volunteers, and I agree 100% that it should not be tolerated. But it was also interesting to me that there was already an events committee formed, and it was mentioned that they were pleased with the interest shown before the Parks Committee was dissolved. So I didn't know if the trustees had voted for this or not. But my major concern about the February 1st meeting, while Trustee Weidman claims the Finance Committee was political, the actions by the majority of the board on February 1st was the definition of political. Mr. Kellums had these committees on his agenda for discussion, but not all members of the board knew that. The law director had resolutions prepared, but those weren't shared with everyone on the board. And Mr. Weidman was prepared with copies of campaign contributions to be outraged and to make his point. First of all, I'd like to remind the residents of Sycamore Township, Mr. Weidman had no issue with receiving a $10,000 contribution from someone who is not registered to vote in Ohio, nor a property owner in the township. Kathy Bergen, also known as Kathy Bastos, lives in Washington, D.C. The LLC where the check was written is a Florida LLC. She neither owns property in Sycamore Township, but David Bastos, the president of CIG, had a large development being considered by the board after the election. This is not illegal, but do not feign distaste for campaign contributions from non-Ohio registered voters. The person on the Finance Committee is a property owner and a taxpayer in Sycamore Township, so he has a vested interest in the finances of the township. Kathy Bergen Bastos had a vested interest in seeing the election go that way. Either these are both political or neither one are political. So, Trustee Weedman and Trustee Schwegman expressed concern that the Finance Committee was redundant or created a burden on the township employees. Perhaps redundancy or oversight is needed after seeing a misstatement of funds to the tune of over $1 million in the fiscal officer's report on February 15th. So Trustee James is the person the residents can look to for catching these errors. I hope in the future other trustees can show us that they have looked into the reports that are being read into the record since they saw fit to dissolve the Finance Committee. The point of my comments tonight to the board, please be better. The time to settle your scores and be outraged about what happened when other people were in charge is over. Work together to move the township forward. Thank you. Oh, and I have copies too. I brought copies of checks too.
Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, sir. Ms. Kathy Kugler?
Hello, my name is Kathy Kugler. I live in the township. As Mr. Dieter said, he caught me to ask to try and resolve the issue that I'm bringing up. And I gave him a copy of what my concerns were, but I brought, let's see, 3 copies for the trustees. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's hard to tell when you're speaking in public. Sometimes it's a little nervous. I came tonight to talk about the refund process by Dinergy to Sycamore Township customers. The refund of the overcharge was completely poorly executed. Everybody agrees on that. I received 2 debit cards on different dates. I went through a lot of work to activate the first one, and it didn't work. I used it 2 places and it was denied. I wasn't terribly embarrassed, but it was a little uncomfortable. When the second one came, I decided I'm not going to do that again. So on February 14th, I contacted 3 different customer service persons, and I reached them through the number on the letter that I received. No one knew what I was talking about. I then attempted to go online for a refund check, which is also in the letter. There's no link or address, so I just contacted Dinergy's website. Well, absolutely no one there knew what I was talking about. So I asked to speak to a supervisor, and I was told that no one was available and that someone would call me within 24 hours. I did get a call the next day. I asked for a check, and I pointed out the letter is misleading because it doesn't give you any way to actually get the check. The customer service said it would arrive in 5 days. I haven't gotten anything yet. That was 11 business days ago. It's longer than that. So prior to this, I did send an email to all of you, you too, asking for some help on this. I didn't hear back from anybody but Mr. James. And so I assume you all got the request to get some help, and I'm sure you got it too, because I'm sure I had the right email address. At any rate, on the heels of this phone call with Dinergy, I received a very suspicious call on a very similar subject. I wondered if the customer list for Dinergy's been hacked. And so I was called today by Monica Lyons, identifying herself as representing Duke Energy Customer Choice. I have the phone number if the police want to look into this. She offered me 25% lower rates on gas and electric. And she said, I said, well, you know, I'm not sure I want to make that decision right now. So she said, well, can I call you back? I said, sure. She never called me back. She also wanted my account information, which I did not give her. So I think that I'm concerned that this is exactly the same issue I had, refund, overcharges, reduced rates, and it comes under the name of Duke Energy. Maybe it's real. Is it real? I mean, would you know?
I would know.
Oh, okay.
I have not heard of that one.
Okay, all right. Duke Energy Customer Choice is what it was called. I want to know, has an audit been done to see if Dinergy has overcharged customers before? I know we caught this one, or someone did. It could have happened before and nobody caught it. Is there an audit that's been done to look at that?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Okay, I think it should be. Have the township elected officials contacted Duke Energy on this refund issue? Because obviously it would have been best just to take it off my bill.
I've had multiple conversations. Subject to your original email, I had 2 conversations with Dan Dieters. And I know Tracy Kellum's also had conversations with Dan Dieters as well, so it's not like we weren't responding to it. We were trying to get to the bottom of it. We didn't have good answers at the time.
I didn't get any response at all, even that you were working on
I
it.
think what happened was...
Sorry.
Okay. I can barely hear you, I'm sorry.
I think we were working on trying to find out what the problem was so we could get a solution to the problem at the time. And then Dan Dieters came in and you weren't here, but gave a broadcast message to all of our residents at our meeting to let everybody know exactly what the situation was and what the solution was. I think you probably saw that meeting. I think you said you saw that meeting, but you weren't here if I heard you correctly. But
A couple of meetings before when I was here, I heard that there was an issue coming up with energy. Otherwise, I would have thrown this thing away thinking it was a credit card request, sign up for Dynergy's credit card, because everybody that you have any business contact with now has their own credit card that they want to sign you up with. It would have been nice to have heard back, Kathy, we're working on it, thanks. That would have been sufficient.
we were working on it for the record.
But to send me an email to that, to respond to me.
Dan Dieters did not know about it until I brought it to the attention from another resident who called me asking me questions about it as well. So this was well before the cards were ever sent out. This is when there was a question about the charge. So we were aware of it, we were working on it, and it wasn't like we threw your email in the trash. I want you to know that we were working on it. So.
Well, thank you for that explanation, but you could have just shot me back. We're working on it. That would have been great. That would have been fine. I didn't hear from anybody but Mr. James.
Oh, I thought Tracy was going to communicate with you because we were working together with Dan Dieters. So.
Well, he didn't communicate with me either.
Okay.
I will note.
I believe Mr. No, I was just going to say I believe Mr. Dieters has been here several meetings because I didn't officially become a trustee until January 1st. I was here in December and November meetings, and I know that this was discussed in a fair level of detail back then as far as it was an issue, things were being done to try and resolve it. So, I do know that Mr. Dieters has been here several times
I didn't send him an email because I didn't know who he was. I sent it to you guys because that's who I knew who you were.
So.
And I will say again, just a response back, I'm working on it, would have been fine, at any rate.
I will join in on that, by the way. I know it's frustrating when you email a group of people and don't necessarily hear back from all of them, or someone responds and the others don't know there's been a response. I would ask our staff and my fellow trustees too, just, courteously respond to people and let them know we're working on things. Or Tracy, if you get an email that we're all copied on and you respond so that I don't nag you later to ask if you answered, copy us and let us know you did it, and that way we don't all waste each other's time on some of that too. But just...
Tracy and I did have a conversation about it. I think he assumed that I was going to communicate with you, and I assumed he was going to communicate with you, so that's kind of where it went. But we had a conference call with Dan Dieters as well. So.
Okay.
And as soon as I got your email, I forwarded to Dan. Thought Dan was going to get a hold of you that day, so that's my fault that I didn't communicate with you.
Okay, well, if I send you another email in the future, maybe I'll get a response. I don't send many. Okay, I have one more question. How much in total were the residents of Sycamore Township overcharged? I mean, mine was only $14, but there are thousands of residents. So is it $1,000 that is being refunded, or is it $50,000? I mean, I would like to know.
Mr. Dieters had a pretty comprehensive report. Not only Sycamore Township was not the only municipality that this happened to. It happened, I believe, in two others. I think it was.
3 others.
And he had a pretty comprehensive report on the impact of Sycamore Township as well. I can't remember off the top of my head what those numbers were, but
when he spoke to us, it was 2 meetings ago, I think. Kathy, if you do go back and watch the video, or the numbers may be in our minutes from them, I'm not sure, but he did provide some numbers as to it. The township had requested that, and it was a large, widespread impact. Relatively small per household, I think, but quite a few people were affected.
When you multiply it by 5,000 households, I mean, I don't know how many were affected.
Quite a few were
affected.
affected.
The reason I asked that's a lot of money to just disappear. And if those cards are not used and nobody gets a check, how are we making that person whole?
We
Which
addressed
might
that
be
in
an
the
old
meeting.
lady who can't use the internet.
Yeah, we actually did address that in the meeting, and Mr. Dieters discussed that too. And just to summarize, he said they'd be taking care of it in some way. State law doesn't let them just keep the money either. They'd ultimately have to pay it over to a state unclaimed funds fund, if nothing else. But I'd encourage you to go
Checks
back and look
unclaimed
at that.
funds. I mean, really. I mean, so once the person is not made whole, they may be never made whole.
Well, we had actually asked Mr. Dieters to ensure they're going to do outreach to any of the cards that weren't negotiated by their July expiration date. And I expect we're going to get a report back from that at some point because, yeah, it's very important to me, too, that everybody gets made whole. So I'm keeping an eye on it.
Well, I'm sure that Mr. Dieters is a very fine man. He was very nice to approach me and offer me that I need to drive over to his place to get this fixed up. So that'll be the 5th thing I've done on this. But at any rate, is Dinergy trustworthy? Are they the best rate and customer service provider? I don't know. Based on my experience, it left a little bit of a lemon in my mouth. But I realize maybe they do have the best price. I don't know. You've got to have to go to bat for me on that one.
They are not the supplier in what he was discussing earlier tonight that they anticipate contracting with the next time.
Well, at any rate, so I realize that residents that come to this meeting and have this opportunity to speak are not given a response. You've given me a little, thank you. I am asking to receive a written response to my questions at a future date, maybe within 30 days of this meeting, if you wouldn't mind. And it doesn't, I kind of feel like sometimes you come to these and you bring up a concern and it evaporates into space. And I just didn't want that to happen here because I did take the time to come. And I think it's not just a Kathy Kugler issue, it's everybody who went through this. So thank you for your attention and your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Kathy. Skylar, anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Sheriff Patrol Report. Chris?
The twice postponed block watch meeting is back on the books. It's scheduled for March 13th. Bitterman will be there, and he's going to bring his potential replacement to introduce to everyone. We kind of want everybody to kind of get used to seeing him. Deputy Euler is offered to step into Sycamore Township and the 2 beat and kind of cover the High Point area and make himself available for those people.
Okay.
So that's the only thing I have to report.
Okay, great. Any questions? Okay.
I don't know how to ask that other than just interrupt. I'm freezing.
Kathy, you're sitting near an open window there. Maybe if you move over here.
Oh.
Yeah.
It gets stuffy in here pretty quickly.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
all
pretty
right.
warm up here, I think, actually.
Well, we're all full.
Okay.
There's another window.
EMS and Fire. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. I just a couple things. I requested a PO with Tracy today. We're looking at, we need to add some more turnout gear lockers to the fire station. The guys where they store their gear, so it's not on the floor and everywhere. We never did have enough for all the firefighters, so we want to add a few to get, so each firefighter has a gear locker that they can put their turnout gear in when they go off duty. So he'll bring that up at the thing. And then the only other thing I have is Mr. James asked me about looking at this parking situation on Charter Oak. And 8 o'clock this morning I went by there and this is what I found. And quite frankly, this is unacceptable for me due to the fact that they're parking on both sides of the street. And
Often they're closer together than what your picture
yes,
shows, by the way.
and they were parked all the way down Charter Oak in various places. I didn't see anyone parked close to a hydrant or anything like that, but they pick every available spot they can find. And this is kind of an awkward situation. I know normally we try to regulate parking on the hydrant side, but my concern with this particular incident here is that these huge trees are on the hydrant side, and I prefer that if we're going to park that we don't force our fire trucks under those trees, just in case something gets knocked off of a truck with some of these limbs. The ladder truck gets very close to that tree. And I talked to Tracy today about it. My recommendation would be not to post a fire lane sign, but just a no parking anytime. And to put it on the non-hydrant side and that would strictly be to eliminate parking on both sides of the street. That's the only thing. We don't have anything by law that we can follow. So if anybody challenges it, we do have to address the parking on both sides of the street, because that really makes a tight fit. If somebody else parks in front of that blue car, it's going to make it very tight for larger vehicles to get through there. Now, the guy that I spoke to last time had that big flatbed truck, and he does have that parked in his driveway, so I don't know whose vehicles these are, if they're his or they're people across the street or who they are.
I think they're the same family, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, the big truck that was out there, he when I asked him to move it, he did, and it looks like it's still moved. It's still in his driveway, but now there's new ones out there.
Yeah.
But regardless, the both sides of the street parking is not good.
Now, by not allowing both sides of the street parking, you mean allowing it on one side only and not on the other, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then talking to Chief, I mean, one of the big problems here is with these cars here, somebody's heading towards Kugler Mill, they're left of center because these people are parking here now. Somebody comes off of Kugler onto here, now they're heading right for each other. I mean, we obviously need no parking on one of these sides for sure.
Chief, you're saying you'd like to have parking on the actually on the hydrant side because of these trees?
Yes, that way, when our trucks go toward the middle of the road, they're moving away from those trees. If it's parking's on the other side, they're going to force them real close to those trees, and I'm worried about doing damage to the trucks with those limbs, with those trees like they are.
Makes sense.
So that's about the ugliest tree I've ever seen.
It looks like Duke or one of their tree removals. It's like carved up a few times.
Duke has done bizarre things
It's
to
almost
that over the last
scary
20 years. And I think, Tracy, I had to call you one day, last year, because there was a giant sword of Damocles, limb hanging from that tree right over the roadway, over the center of it.
So what do we need to do to get that implemented?
Well, we'll have to pass a resolution. We do not have it tonight because we didn't know which way you wanted to go or of any way, but you can just direct me to get a resolution put together, and I'll have it at the next meeting.
Okay. Well, we will direct you to have a resolution prepared for the next meeting, and so that we're all in agreement, we're going to be actually having parking on the hydrant side and not on the non-hydrant side.
So no parking will be on the west side.
Correct.
All right. Okay. Chief, anything else?
That's all.
Okay, any questions?
And the length of that will be from the bend, where Chief's shooting his picture from. There's a 90-degree bend in this road. Yeah. You want it the whole length of this road. From
all the way to the stop sign.
All the way to the stop sign.
Yep.
Really, it may even need to be before the bend then.
Because otherwise you're going to be out in the middle of the road at the stop sign.
Yeah. So.
Which doesn't solve anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, my own suggestion would be if it would make sense is possibly leave space on the house on the corner there in the bend with the driveway that faces north, right? Leave room for them to park at least one car adjacent to the driveway, immediately up to the driveway if there's room for that, and then where you're putting the arrow, start the no parking there before the turn.
When I spoke to the guy last year about this, when I asked him to move his vehicle, he was pretty nice about it, but I told him that if it didn't happen, we would be forced to put fire lane signs out.
Yeah.
Or put no parking signs out.
Yeah,
because I even expressed the picture doesn't do justice for how close those tree limbs are hanging all out of the road, that a fire truck's going to clip it, or any tall truck, Rumpke, whoever. And I explained that to him, that I didn't want our trucks going under those trees, being forced that close to the trees. And I said, if you don't move it, you're going to force me to put no parking signs out.
Yeah, Duke was actually out this morning at I think about 8:45 a.m. when I
there's
drove by
nobody
there with a
parked on the
bucket,
street.
Not a soul.
bucket truck right under it.
What's the problem? The trees look good too.
I've never
Is
seen
that
it
a
look that way.
1969 shot or what?
2018.
18.
No way.
Yeah.
There's that culprit right there.
Yeah.
Scott, can you go back to the overhead?
Sure.
Here's some of the straightaway.
So up here on Charter Oak, the only problem with,
Yeah.
I would really like to extend it all the way to the driveway. That is a blind corner.
It is a
now.
totally
Yeah, I
blind
agree.
spot.
Yeah.
It's
You
really
can
bad.
see cars parked right across the street from there right now.
Yeah.
That is a blind corner. That's
Yeah, you're right,
That's a
actually,
really
yeah.
bad spot right
You're
now.
going to have the same situation you had up at Tenderfoot.
Yeah.
You don't.
You're
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yep.
Okay, so you'll bring us a resolution, Tracy?
I will.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is roads maintenance and recreation report. And that would be you, Tracy.
So the first thing that I have is on recreation. We just talked to Mr. Tony Lang about the food expo that we're looking to do in June. I have sent all of you contracts that we are looking for bands to hire to continue our Music in the Park series. We're looking for the Remains to be there in July, Soul Pocket Band to be there in August, and excuse me if I don't see the name on somebody can speak up.
Model behavior.
Is that what it is? Model behavior in September. So we've already, Jason has already worked on these and negotiated some prices. So as you can see, Remains is $2,000, Soul Pocket's $2,500, and Model Behavior is $1,100. So really just looking for a motion to proceed with this if you're in favor of these three.
I move we proceed with these contracts with these three bands.
You have a motion, you have a second?
These are Saturday nights, correct? Or Friday nights? Tracy, do we know, are these dates, these performance dates, Saturdays or
I
Fridays?
think they're Saturdays, but I can look. I know they're all the same day because we didn't want to move them around.
That's what I figured.
July 9th is a Saturday. And what's the other ones?
I mean, I'll certainly second it. I was just curious as to
Yeah.
what.
August 13th is a Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday, yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. RFQ submittals?
I do. So as you know, we went out on three different submittals for RFQs for...
Hey, before you do that, can I go back to something?
Sir?
Ms. Hughes has suggested that we have an events committee already in place, even prior to the dissolving of our Parks Committee. That's the first I've ever heard of it, so maybe you can comment on that.
I actually put my name in for it that evening after the meeting. So
Tracy,
it's on your website that they're taking names for an events committee.
Do we have an events committee in place?
We do not.
Okay,
But you're
thank you.
taking names for it.
We are
Thank you.
taking names, yes.
That's not what I understood you said, but that's good. Okay. Back to the RFQ submittals.
Okay, so we have put out three different submittals. One is for the Montgomery Road Sidewalk Project. This is the project that we got SORTA grants for. It runs from Stewart Road down to Ken Arbor Road. We received 7 submittals, all from very high-quality engineering firms. And Strand Associates rated the highest in this, and I would like a motion to be able to proceed with negotiations with Strand for this project.
Okay, you need a motion?
Yes.
I move we proceed with Strand Associates for the Montgomery Road Sidewalk project.
Second that?
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
I do have a question. They were rated the highest. So what was how did they compare to the others? Was it a razor's edge? Was it more?
So between Strand and, they were all fairly close. They're all very good firms as far as quality of their team. They're all fairly the same. Most of the difference was in the approach of the project and what we thought was the best approach. Strand and Burgess and Nipel, who we've worked with also before, were very close. We just thought Strand had the best approach for this project.
And we've had good results with them in the past?
So we have not contracted with them before, but I've worked with them on county projects before, including the roundabout project, so they do an excellent job.
Okay.
They come highly regarded.
Okay.
So the next project was the Gideon Lane culvert. Oh, I thought we already voted.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Thank you. The next project's the Gideon Lane Culvert Project. This is a project for replacing 96-inch pipe under Gideon Lane that has failed. We got some grant money for this project also. We had 5 firms put in for this, and we have rated Carpenter Marty as the highest firm for this project. We've had great results with them. In fact, they are the ones that did our Dillon Vale culverts and our headwall project, and it went very well.
I move we proceed with Carpenter Marty for the Gideon Lane project.
Second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
So the third one is the traffic impact study, Kenwood Road and Montgomery Road. This is a very large project, and I was surprised that we only received 4 RFQs, 4 submittals on this. I expected a lot more than that. Very good firms, all 4 of them though. We also talked to Jeff Newby about this and sent them over to him, who is the Hamilton County traffic engineer, and everybody's conclusion was that TEC Engineering was best fit to do this study.
Okay.
I move we proceed with TEC Engineering for the traffic impact study at Kenwood and Montgomery.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
That's all I have tonight.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Mr. Miller? Planning and zoning.
Yes, sir. Just some current happenings, things that are going to be coming up on the horizon in planning and zoning. Sorry. Let's see here. First up, at the next trustee meeting, you will be presented with 2 resolutions to facilitate PACE financing for a Residence Inn, Marriott Hotel, at 7901 Kenwood Road. So this is the hotel for the CIG project. Just very briefly for the public, PACE financing, that's property assessed clean energy. It's a type of financing mechanism that since the township has an established ESID, Energy Special Improvement District, a property owner can seek essentially energy efficiency financing for those types of improvements. They can finance the cost of those improvements over the entire life of that improvement, and the payments the actual debt rolls on to as a special assessment onto their tax bill. So it's really a good way to not only encourage some green improvements and to have above code quality buildings, but it is it essentially rolls that part of the cost onto an ongoing operating cost versus a large debt liability for the property owner. So this is an application that was recently vetted by the Suburban Communities ESID, which we're the founding member of. We found that the proposed project met the criteria for PACE financing, and yesterday we met to recommend approval of this. Again, this will be coming up at the next trustee meeting. So there's no public dollars that's associated with this. PACE financing requires this ESID mechanism, and because it's going onto the tax bill, the township has to facilitate this process. We're essentially a pass-through. So no public dollars, nothing coming out of general fund or anything like that, and no township liability. Okay. Excuse me. At our, we are going to have a March 14th zoning commission meeting. I have 3 cases that night, so I guess the drought is over. First item up is going to be a new tire discounters project. Tire discounter purchased the property immediately south of them on Kenwood Road, the old grader site, with the intentions of consolidating that site and raising both buildings and developing a new modern tire discounter on that site. So we're working with them to refine their plan, and again, this will be reviewed by zoning commission, and will ultimately end up in front of you, if everything goes smoothly, potentially on April 5th. The next case is the Tri-Health building. They're on North Creek. They are proposing a major adjustment, which simply entails a new sign along I-71. So they currently have a small, you can kind of see it here, just a small identifier sign, and they're proposing a much larger 30-foot tall Tri-Health with a 10 by 10 digital message board. So I won't go into any detail about this at this point in time, but this is the current proposal from them.
Is that on both sides of the sign or facing south?
It's my understanding that it's going to be dual faced. So you'll see it northbound and southbound. So, but you can certainly see the before and proposed. Okay. Last but not least, Equipment Depot, who own the property at the corner of Ross Plain Road and Ross Ash Road, are proposing some significant changes to their site. They're consolidating multiple lots, raising some portions of older buildings. There's going to be a large addition to the site, or to the building facing Ross Ash, as well as significant parking improvements. So that's all I have for those. So unless there's any questions, again, I don't want to go into a lot of detail. I just want to give everybody a heads up that there'll be quite a few public hearings coming up soon.
Okay, any questions?
Yes, sir.
Just one thing you may want to consider, it's hard to tell from the renderings, but with this Tri-Health sign, there is, of course, a plan for the site for a second building there parallel to the highway, perpendicular to the current building, and a walking path next to it and other things. I assume this comports with that plan that's been floated so far, but that may be something for the zoning commission to take a look at.
It's all being considered, sir. Like I said, I won't go into detail
That's fine.
I don't want to talk about it too much outside of public hearing with you yet, but yes.
Okay, thanks.
That is being considered.
Okay.
Last but not least, I didn't have a chance to shoot off an email yet, but I do want to report there was a township resident that had a concern about the other part of the CIG project, the Aspire multifamily. They contacted Mr. James regarding the doors on the south side of the building. I realize those have not been removed yet, but They are required to remove those. There will not be any patios or balconies on that southernmost face of the building. And that is a requirement in order to receive final zoning approval and ultimately their CO. So they have acknowledged that. I worked with them back in October and in November of last year, and it's fully established that those will be removed, and they will make repairs to the exterior of the building. Unless there's any other questions, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
One other about that site that Mr. Kellums may just want to address, actually, that pertains more to you, but the JEDD setup that we started for that property, there are some other meetings we need to have, and I think you responded this week that we've got that in the works when I asked about it.
I was going to talk about that in my administrator report.
Excellent. You're ahead of me on that. Thank you.
Okay. Law Director report. Larry.
Yes, I am in the process of drafting new bylaws and a new resolution for the board's consideration at either the next meeting or the one after that for a new resident finance committee.
Okay.
So I hope to have that to you, to Tracy Kellums by the end of the week.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
And I'm also working on some documents for the JED that Tom just referred to.
Yep, great, thank you.
Can you speak into your microphone? We didn't hear one word you said.
Next time I will.
He said he's working on new bylaws for the resident finance committee, as he described it, and we'll present that at the next meeting, and is also working on something for the JEDD. You're welcome.
Okay, next item is administrator report.
So for those in the audience who weren't here, we did have our 4 Judge Boards meetings tonight, and those seem to be tracking very well, which is great news considering the economy and what's been going on. We also had our CIC board meeting tonight for the grant program for people to get their portion back that live in the township, and that is going well also. So the only other thing that I have tonight besides that is Mr. James did contact me and asked me about questions to the JED, and I was not involved in that board at all, so I had to research that a little and found out that that was established in May of 2020, and then I don't know why, but for some reason the organizational meeting was not set up till August 11th of 21, so that's 15 months later. And at that meeting, Mr. James had made a motion to table setting a dates for the passing of a tax resolution and approval of tax collection and distribution. And Mr. Warwick was supposed to have that, was supposed to work on that. And Mr. Fuller said, let's do that in the next 2 months. So Mr. James is right. It's 7 months later and we still have nothing. So I have contacted Mr. Barbier, who has experience with this because I did not. He is working on some documents now so that we can call a meeting in the very near future and get this put together.
And actually, just fill in the blanks as to what happened in the meeting. Mr. Fuller was going to circulate proposed dates to us within a couple weeks of that meeting as to our next meeting, and then that didn't happen.
Okay, so that was not in the minutes, okay. All I knew is what I read in the minutes.
I thought I read that Mr. Warwick was supposed to set the next meeting. Did I miss that?
No, the board chairman who we had selected, who was Mr. Fuller.
What does it say in the minutes, Tracy?
So Mr. James had made a motion to request legal counsel to attend the next meeting. So I don't know if Mr. Desai did anything on this or not. And then also agreed that the board should meet soon and coordinate meetings via email, suggesting Mr. Warwick call the next meeting and the township coordinate public notice of the meeting.
Okay, so that was all part of it. It didn't happen, but
I thought that continued on that Mr. Fuller was doing that in the minutes. Maybe
I think he was suggesting dates.
So it's been 7 months. We need to get that done.
We definitely got to do
it soon.
Yep.
We need a resolution to levy the income tax, and we need an agreement with Deer Park in order for them to collect the income tax.
Correct.
So we're putting those together.
Okay, great. Thank you. Purchase orders over 5,000. You have anything besides?
I do not. Chief had given me one. I'll get that to you. We had talked about that coming out of TIF. I was not able to check today. I was very busy as to whether there was proper appropriations in TIF in order to get that done.
Is that on the thermal camera or is that?
That is
The
not.
gear
That
lockers.
is on the lockers.
The gear lockers. Oh, okay.
We can do it the next meeting. It's not. We're not like.
And I think
an
there was a
emergency
question
here.
about the thermal camera, whether or not we can use the. I believe we got $1,000 grant on that. It's $1,490, I believe. Can we use the other $490 out of TIF? I believe we can, but
I think I already paid for it out of my budget. The four something.
Okay.
My tools and equipment.
I think in the future we really need to utilize those TIF funds that we have. Okay. Anything else, Trace?
No, sir.
Fiscal officer report, Mr. Porter.
Couple things. Sent out a request for proposals for depository agreement. That's the bank account, the checking account. In the past, when we've done that, we've gotten a lot of responses. This time, and I think it's because the interest rates are so low, we only had 2 responses from our current depository, which is U.S. Bank, and from Huntington Bank. I think their proposals were distributed to all of you. It's kind of hard to analyze them, but the thing that I'm glad I did it, because right now there's a thing called earned credit on your deposit, and right now we're getting 0.16% on it, and by sending this out, U.S. Bank agreed to raise it to 0.2% on the deposit. I think because interest rates are so low, there wasn't a whole lot of interest from PNC, Fifth Third, a lot of other banks. Usually we would get, back when I first started, we'd get a slew of proposals. But we only had 2, and I don't care which one you use. We're currently using U.S. Bank. They did raise it to 0.2%, the credit, and Huntington had theirs at 0.1%. So I think that's, and there's other differences in various charges of services they give us, but my inclination, and as I say, I don't care what you do, but my inclination would be just to keep it with U.S. Bank based on that earned interest credit that they're giving us.
It looked like in that comparison that there was, U.S. Bank was also suggesting that we invest in some equipment that would allow us to accommodate ACHs and process our own checks. Did I read that spreadsheet accurately?
I believe we have that, Tracy. Don't we have that?
We have it currently.
I think we already do it.
Yeah, I think
That could have just been in their schedule of fees.
right. No, that's what those things were. They were schedule of fees.
Got
on
it.
both of
I mean,
them.
I was looking at the assessment, that sort of the comparison that Debbie provided, but it could have been just those were just some bulleted.
Yeah,
This is what we charge if you need this.
Which
If you already have it,
typically,
that's great.
the way these go out is you get what's called an analysis sheet, and you send that out to everyone, and then that shows the charges that we typically incur, the balances we currently have, and then they respond to it. And I have good relationship with both banks. I've worked with both banks. What's best for the township is what I've always tried to think, and I think based on the 0.2% earnings credit on our balance, U.S. Bank would be the best. But And, as I say, I'm good friends with the people at Huntington. I've worked with Huntington, and I just, but I got to put that aside, and I think U.S. Bank is...
Do we need to take action on that?
I'm not sure what the situation is.
I don't recall us taking action on it before.
Well, we really, I would like
It's just to
to
remain with the bank.
a motion
Yes.
to remain with U.S. Bank.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the contract. If it automatically renews, you don't need to take any action.
I think it does automatically renew unless we make a change.
Unless you change.
Unless we change.
And cost-wise, we're looking at the same as well for any transactional costs we might run into as between U.S. Bank or Huntington.
There's the schedule of what the transactional costs
Right,
are,
I
and
understand
it
the price
looked-
list, but what
And
are we
it
actually
looked to
paying?
me like U.S. Bank was very competitive or better in a lot of them.
Okay.
But
If I read the analysis right, I mean, it's the way, at least in my experience, when you do that with banks, I mean, they all charge for different things.
Right.
So it's
Right.
really hard to compare apples to apples. You
Right.
end up with
That-
a banana and an orange, and you're like, what does it make sense?
You're
But I think-
absolutely right, and that's why with only 2 people responding, I thought maybe I could
Yeah.
put together a chart that had them both side by side. It wasn't real clear.
I tried to do some basic math and extrapolate out the charts, and it came out virtually identical at the end. I mean, again, they were charging for different things, but by the time you took the units and applied it out, it seemed to be darn near identical.
Yeah, pretty much a wash.
Yeah,
And it's not. I'm out over the tips of my skis. It's not what I do, but based on what I could discern from the spreadsheets, in the comparison, it seemed to me that it was pretty.
I think
pretty
that's a
comparable.
fair analysis because I've done several of these, and it's hard to compare apples to apples with these things.
They
just
never
set
come
it
in
up-
equal.
They set it up.
Well, here, just in case we need to do something, I move we maintain our current banking relationship with U.S. Bank as proposed.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Okay. We'll let them know then the results.
Okay. Bills and receipts?
Yes, we had cash receipts of $855,552.56, disbursements of $302,267.04. Complete listing is in the packet.
We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Next item on the agenda is trustee comments. Tracy Henry?
I do actually. I had the pleasure of being invited by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant Tarr invited me to come out to their patrol headquarters out on Hamilton Avenue last week. So I was lucky enough to take a tour with Lieutenant Tarr and Major Ketterman and Captain Smith, I think all of whom have done a tour of duty here at some point over the last handful of years, it was well worth my time. I appreciate the invitation, and it was great to see all of the different parts of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office in action, and it was great to gain a better understanding of not only do we have them patrolling our streets with regularity, but we are fortunate to be able to tap into the great many resources that we would not begin to be able to afford if we were to try and house that independently, whether that's investigative services or detectives or renew units or what have you. If we need it, it's there and we can tap into it, but it's not anything that we have to have on staff here if we were to have our own independent department. So I think the sheriff's going to provide us great service as our law enforcement agency, but a breadth of other county services. And I thank them for inviting me out and sharing with me what they do, not only for us, but for others throughout the entire county. So thanks to the sheriff's office.
Okay. Any comments?
Yes, I got that same tour 2 years ago and really enjoyed it. It's a fantastic facility out there. I'm glad you got to do the same there, Tracy. A few things. Ms. Hughes made some comments earlier and emphasized, please be better to all of us. And all 3 of us, I think, should take that to heart. Let's all be better. Let's all work together. I think together we actually make a good team, and we're working for the township here. Some other comments. There are a lot of things going on in the world, and I thought I would say this. The right person in the right place at the right time can truly have a monumental impact on events, whether they be local or of global importance. And there's a prime example we've seen in the world lately. President Volodymyr Zelensky, his words and actions in the Ukraine and his inspirational leadership over the past week have knocked some sense back into elected leaders in the West and have kept them from going wobbly in the face of Mr. Putin's aggression. President Zelensky is an actor and a comedian and also a lawyer, by the way.
Same thing, right?
Sometimes it
I was
is.
gonna say that, but I figured I wouldn't.
And he's good point, yeah. And he's a somewhat humble family man too, which has been impressive. This really struck me. In his inaugural speech in 2019, he told the assembled lawmakers, "I do not want my picture in your offices. The president is not an icon, an idol, or a portrait. Hang your kids' photos instead and look at them each time you're making a decision." I like the way that guy thinks. He certainly rose to the occasion when history came calling, and I hope he and his family and their country and countrymen live through all of this and emerge free and in control of their own destinies. All over Ukraine, ordinary people who want to go about their ordinary lives are now fighting for their freedom, and they're rising to the occasion in doing it. I ask our residents, and those of you who are gathered here and up here, please keep the nation of Ukraine and its inhabitants in your prayers and in your thoughts. I ask the same, that you do the same for those innocent Russian citizens and soldiers who seem to be Mr. Putin's pawns in this terrible exercise. Keep them all in your hearts and prayers. They certainly need it. And pray for all of us to be safe as threats are going around the world too. So thank you very much.
Okay, we have announcement changes. The Spring Lawn and Garden Tips with Chris McHugh in the Blooming Garden Center, Saturday, March 26th, 10 a.m., Bechtel Park Pavilion. And for all other scheduled meetings and events, you can check our published calendar on our website. We do have a request for an executive session. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn into executive session with the Township Law Director as permitted by Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1 to consider the compensation of a public employee or official, and as permitted by Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G3 to discuss imminent litigation.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman, who would you like in that executive session?
I would like our law director, Mr. James, Mr. Porter, Ms. Schwegman, Mr. Miller, and we need Okay, that's it.
Thank you.